Sean, great to have you as always, man. How are you?
And it's great to be with you, and that's an important conversation and a tragic one you're going to get to have in about an hour. So I'm honored to do it for that family, man.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate your flexibility and your time as always. Spencer Rattler finally got himself a win. What do you think that? Well, obviously you played in the NFL, but to get the first win, what's Spencer Rattler feeling right now?
You'll forget a lot of things in your career, Matt. Some you want to, and some you don't. But I got to tell you that you'll never forget that one. I remember my first win in the league as well. And it didn't come after 4 or 5 or 6 losses, unfortunately, how it started. What's it been, 11 or 12 for him counting last year?
He started 0-10.
But it's okay. Yeah, 0-10. What was it, Matty, 0-11 or something?
0-10, yeah.
Yeah, 0-10. I'm happy for him. It's one of those you almost feel like, and I know it's not, but it's internally you feel like, man, we just won a Super Bowl, because it does a few things. One, it validates the hard work you put in. 2, you hope it's a Kickstarter for your team. And even if it's, people don't get carried away and say, oh, they won one, they'll go on a 10-game run. Who knows? But I think it's just, and it's also, it can draw you together, because it also got Kellen Moore his first win there too. And so there's a lot of firsts. It's a confidence thing, because even though you're playing well, the one stat that we always keep track of is wins and losses. And we somehow put that only on the quarterback. So if the team's losing, it's the quarterback's fault. If the team's winning, everybody gets credit, but the quarterback gets most of it. So that's part and parcel of the position. But it is, we've turned it into a quarterback stat. So you wear it, man. Every week, it's not man, we got beat. When you're at home sitting by yourself, whether you say we in front of everybody, you believe I got beat. It's on me. And that's usually the burden quarterbacks bear. And he's handled it well. And he's been through a lot. And I can tell you what helped him handle it, in my opinion. And I think he's a good young kid, and he humbled along the way. We all need that. He, to go through that and go the ups and downs along the way. Nothing's good about losing other than the growth you're going to make to get to winning. But when you go through some pitfalls in your career along the way, even though he won a lot in college and high school, it's still different when you're with the big boys. And it's a great motivator to continue to go, even though you didn't need motivation. But it's just like anything else. Once that's done, now you can put that away and hopefully focus on the positive, because every week you're focused on what you didn't do as opposed to what you did do or what you can do. And now they know some of the things they can do, big plays and the way they played in the game. And it's a great reward, and it's a great celebration with your teammates and your friends and family, but it's also, and the city. But I think he was well equipped for this, because he's been kicked in the teeth a few times, and that's part of the growth that goes with being a starting quarterback in the league. It isn't easy, as we well know.
Hey, remind me, did you for those who don't know, Sean tutors a lot of young quarterbacks. Did you ever cross paths with Spencer when he was young?
I was coached him at a camp at the Texas A&M Elite when they invited their elite recruits.
Okay.
I got invited by A&M to go up there and be part of that. And I was able to see him. It was his junior year going into his senior year.
Okay, so you
and
I'm sorry. Yeah,
I saw him and I watched him. I was just up close and watched how he handled himself. And at that point in time, and I know his guy who trains him in Scottsdale, since he was in high school and beyond, who's a really good coach out there. But I got to work with him, and it was a pleasure. The kid, I knew then he had special skill set, but you never know how it's going to turn out. And he was awfully confident, and he knew he was a good player. And I mean that respectfully and affectionately, but sometimes, when it gets to the point where you're that dominant, and he was, that along the way, sometimes you run into those pitfalls, and he probably never saw them for the most part early in his career, so he wasn't used to it. And then when he had to face it, he had to, recarve out and rebrand him as a quarterback, and he did. But I was impressed with how physically gifted and strong he was when I got to watch him work.
So you've seen him for every phase, or high school, college, pro. What's interesting to me right now, Sean, is through 5 games, just 6 touchdowns, but only 1 interception. Like, largely he's avoided the big mistake. So I'm curious what evolution you've seen from Rattler, given what the perception was of him in college and how his career in the NFL has begun.
I love the evolution, because, from watching him and people that watched him every day in high school, and me getting to coach him at that camp, but also talking to, his private coach, and just listen to the way people talked about him in Arizona, which is like a second home for me, and paying attention to those high school recruits. He was a very dynamic, explosive player with a great skill set, and, a guy who had guts and a chance taker. You put the ball in his hand, great things were going to happen. And when you're that good, you assume you can make every throw. And it's hard, Matt, to back off and know when to be judicious with the football. It just is. Because then the expectations, I mean, we see it all the time. It's rare you get a guy of his talent that come out and say, yeah, man, he's a patient guy. And most of the time we're looking at explosive talent. We want big plays and you got to go dominate. And so to settle in, to go from being an athlete who's a quarterback, don't misunderstand me, but then as you get on and everybody's good and everybody around you, to being a quarterback that's not just a thrower, but that's a passer and understands the concept. Because he was good enough, Matt, in high school to not make a great play and still be better than the guys around him, if that makes sense. To,
sure.
Miss a read and still make a throw. To miss where somebody misses a block and to find and buy himself some time and to make something happen when you're that physically gifted. So it becomes more of a physical thing as you're going on, and you don't realize until you get to it and it hits you in the face in college that, oh my gosh, there's a lot of other things to it. And that's not, it's just when you're that good, the mental part of it doesn't hit you until, well, it has to hit you. And he was a smart guy. I'm just talking about you didn't have to rely on that with that cerebral stuff. None of it. I didn't. I mean, I knew it. He knows coverage, but I was just physically better than players. And I don't mean it arrogant, just was. So that's what your crutch is. And he was physically just better than everybody. So the secondary part of it is the mental patience, getting through your progressions, because he could throw it through a car wash without getting it wet in high school, and he was just better. But what happens is you go through it, and then you say, okay, now coverage, and then fast-paced offense, and then you come in and have a few bad games, and the expectations raise. Well, all the expectations for him have been he's lived up to them. Then he gets to school, and it's like, well, wait a second now. From first pick possible to the draft, highest recruited kid in the country, to going through struggles, bringing another guy. Oh, now what? Then that guy has success, and you don't get the gig back, and you got to transfer. So all those things that are well documented, but I think the evolution is that he learned along the line, you don't have to be a hero. You don't have to make every play. In high school, he was good enough to do it, so he did it. And when he got to college, he was, hence why going into his last year, he was supposed to be the first pick of the draft or top 3 pick. So it happens. But the evolution from being an athlete thrower to a quarterback passer and a guy who processes it all and understands what the defense is trying to do to you, then, and I think that's carried over to here. He got here and realized, you know what? In order for us and me to have some success, I've got to be smart with the football. Now, as he gets there, you saw him take chance, the big 87-yard play. What a great route call and a great throw and finish. Is that as he starts to evolve now, as he's backed off saying, let me get these completions. Let me understand how to beat people with my mind and other parts of getting the ball out on time. That physically, the corner in high school doesn't quite cover like the guy does now. And it's just a different way to do it. And sometimes you don't learn it, sometimes you do, and sometimes it takes a minute. When I watched him last week and watched him this year, and from last year, some of the struggles, it feels to me like there's command, there's more processing, and he's got the physical ability to make it happen. But once you start to tie them both together, good things happen. I know it's one win, but I think he's played good enough football this year to warrant the fact that he's the starting quarterback. That one bad game shouldn't sit him down. I believe that. And so then a coach's number one thing is make sure the guys around, that confidence and believability, but protect the football. And he's doing a hell of a job of it, because I know the other stuff's there. When big plays are there, he'll make them as he evolves. But you got to know, can you protect it? Can you overcome what you couldn't overcome when you went through your struggles? And now here you are again. And to me, the greatest growth is learning from your earlier mistakes. And I think he's done that. And I think he is progressing to prove that he can be a guy in this league. Because I want to remind people again, when that kid came out of high school and for the majority of his college career, he was as good as there was wherever he was. And then he went through a little humble pie. And that's not a bad thing, especially if you know what you're going through and understand what it takes to get out of it.
Yeah, it brings up a really interesting matchup this week, and then I'm going to talk about when we come back, because the Saints are going to host New England. You got another young quarterback, Drake Maye. Looks pretty good right now. Certainly the Patriots going on the road on Sunday Night Football, getting a win in Buffalo. We'll talk about that when we come back. Sean, we went to break and we're talking about Spencer Rattler. This weekend's going to be interesting because of the couple of young quarterbacks and Drake Maye coming in. How would you sort of assess Drake Maye and the Patriots through the first handful of games here under Mike Vrabel coming into the Dome after one of the most impressive and maybe surprising wins of the early NFL season, Sunday Night Football in Buffalo?
Yeah, it goes to show you that coaching does matter and buy-in and guys that can make a difference. And, while I hope Tennessee gets their stuff settled, one team's and organization's loss is another team's gain. This is a perfect job for Mike. and it matters with Drake Maye. And listen, when you're a head coach and you get a job in college, nowadays you're looking for NIL money, a recruiting base, support from the AD and the president, and a great fan base, right? Well, in the pros, you're looking for an organization that maybe you're familiar with, that you trust the people who hired you, and then you want to have a good quarterback. It's a good place to start, and Mike's got that. Love him. I've always loved him. As far as Drake Maye, I was a huge fan coming out of school. I know we didn't get to see 5 years of a body of work,
right?
But he can make every throw. He's more athletic than people think. He can kill you from the pocket, which is I love. I love quarterbacks that can do it both, Matty. But for me, it starts there. We rarely have consistent Super Bowl type contenders or winners that they beat you with their feet first, arm second. It's the other way around, and he's really good from there. And I think he's got a great feel for the game. And every time I watch him, he feels pretty unflappable to me. He still looks like a child and a kid, but he plays like a grown-up. And talk about a guy who's fought through it, emerged, and is really uplifted an organization. Going forward, this is a good matchup, man, with Mike Vrabel, the organization, the Patriots. They really, no matter how we go about it, and I know it hadn't been a long time since Tom's been gone, but I haven't been as optimistic about that organization and about that team since Mike and now with Drake Maye got there. He's been well taught along the way, and you can see what coaching's doing for him. And now he's starting to get to the point where the leadership and believability. I thought it was a huge win. I think we're making a major mistake. The Jets are awful. The Miami Dolphins are as soft as a wet paper towel. They're not any good. The New England Patriots, one thing and when you got a quarterback and you play tough, and he's still not doing it with the Detroit Lions personnel, Drake Maye, right? Mike's going to continue to build that. There's a sense of toughness that I'm a big believer, because everywhere I've been, we have taken on the personality of our head coach. I don't care if it's high school, college, or pro. That personality, whatever that was, we took it on, and a coaching staff. And I think Drake Maye will benefit from that. And I think Mike realized how good he is. Give him some more personnel, and there's an elevation. When you look at that class, it has some pretty good players. I don't see why 5 years from now we're not talking about him in the same breath we're talking about the best in the league. He's got that ability, but it also they have to continue to build around him. I love his poise and that victory against Buffalo. I would not sleep on the New England Patriots as the season goes along. Toughness travels, and Mike Vrabel's a hell of a coach, and they got a quarterback. I wouldn't sleep on them being a team that in December is still in a battle for a wild card spot.
Yeah, you go to Buffalo and win, the league is on. It's been put on notice. Sean, the Saints played by their standard pretty well, still gave up 31 and lost by a dozen at Buffalo. So, you go win there.
They're pretty good, and their quarterback dresses in a phone booth, man. Yeah. So I understand. You got to go there, and it takes, even when you're playing good, it's tough to win. Yeah. And that's a great point.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.